cabinet secretaries are sleeping on their jobs. What next? We'll ask all those questions. Thank you again for making time for us. Keep talking to us, the hashtag on Twitter, the big question. You can text us on 22422. First, you've been going around the country assessing the situation. How bad or dire is the situation, would you say, and what are you really doing about it?
The situation is getting more severe than in the last quarter of the year. As we went to Christmas, we had an assessment that showed
things were improving.
Almost 5 counties were in a bad state. But as we speak,
where exactly?
The short rains gave us some hope. Areas like Garissa were in quite a bad state. Other coast, Kwale, Tana River. But with the short rains failing, the situation is worse now. We have over 11 counties that are in the high alert area. And what we're looking at is upscaling our efforts to ensure there's more water available, to ensure there's more food for those who have no food at all. So we had a cabinet resolution last year to ensure that we have 5 billion towards availing immediate relief, particularly to the severely affected areas. And we had several ministries, a multi-sectoral approach that saw focus on water, on food, livestock, and health also, because of the epidemic that breaks out with the drought coming, and also education, because we have quite a number of kids dropping out of school, schools closing in some areas because of the severity of the situation, school feeding and water also. So as we speak, we are completing the first phase, which was about 5 billion towards this. But the situation having gotten more severe now. We are looking at the next phase where we set aside 9 billion. That is now from February going towards April and May, when we actually expect the next rains to come.
Right.
But after that, we still are providing for a situation that might arise again if the rains don't perform well beyond May. And we've set aside over 7 billion for this. So
that in total is 7 plus 9 billion, that is 16 billion plus 5. We're talking about 21
billion towards this. I think it's I was very pleased when we had a meeting with our development partners. They say that this is the biggest response we've had from government side, but they're also stepping in, because with the multi-sectoral approach we've taken, we had the World Food Program, we had the EU, we had FAO, and all our partners out there. And we had over 10 governors attending the meeting at LICO agency.
Okay. You were, I mean, I wouldn't want to sound like, I mean, to be so cynical. You're talking about 21 billion, ultimately, if this persists.
Yes.
If this persists, you're talking about 21 billion.
Correct.
How much, for instance, is the government setting aside on the northern, the Buranga Dam? I can't remember the exact phase.
No, it's called the Northern Collector Tunnel.
That is about 6 billion, if I'm not wrong?
No, that's only one phase.
That is one phase.
Yes, one phase there of the tunnel is about 6.something billion.
Right.
Then we have the other phase now that will bring the water into Nairobi and do the infrastructure. Across Nairobi alone, we've set aside over 4 billion to ensure that when we bring in over 140 million liters of water, we can get this water to Kibera, we can get this water to Buruburu and all the other areas of Nairobi. But apart from that, we have a treatment plant that is again over 4 billion at Kigoro, which will treat the extra water that we bring in. And I must say to you, last time when you asked me about this collector tunnel, I did say then, as I wish to re-emphasize tonight, that the hope of making Nairobi water secure is the Northern Collector Tunnel.
Right.
When these rains come and there are flood waters, instead of the waters going to the Indian Ocean, we'll tunnel this water into Ndakaini. Ndakaini has the lowest levels of water as we speak. We have dropped below 50%. That is why you are seeing water rationing in Nairobi, particularly on the Eastlands part of town. But once we do this tunnel, water rationing in Nairobi will be a thing of the past.
Fair enough, but again, there are those who say this again proves the point that the ones who are against all this, it proves their point that it is a risky venture.
Not correct.
Now that you're not digging downstream, you're digging up.
Not correct.
And you're saying the rivers now dried up, the levels are going down, and you're still going to tap the same rivers that were taking the water to Dakaini.
We're not abstracting from the rivers. When the rains come, they are the flood flows, the overflows. You know, this is what we tap, because the rains will come eventually in April. And you're looking at getting rain, you're looking at billions of cubic meters of water that run off to the ocean.
Okay.
So I agree with the message I've seen on the Twitter, that what are we doing about it?
Right.
The future lies in ensuring we increase our water harvesting and storage capacity. This is where our focus is as government.
But sadly, it has taken so much time, because time and again, we're back to this problem. And you've had so many tweets talking about that, a lot of text about that.
Yes.
Because this did not happen overnight.
Not at all.
There were concerns and there are warnings.
Yes.
The question has always been, why the knee-jerk reaction now? Why I asked you about the amount you're talking about, ultimately, if this goes as, we don't want to say as planned, but if it happens. You've already talked to me about 6 billion plus 4 billion plus 4 billion, which should be about 14 billion. The ultimate amount you're talking about is 21 billion.
Yes.
To mitigate.
Yes.
So if there was proper planning and not mitigation, that is almost twice the amount you'd have done for another project almost similar to the Northern Water Collector Tunnel.
We are doing quite a number of projects across the country. The Northern Collector is only one of them. We are looking at Nairobi. Nairobi does not have its own water.
Right.
We bring in water from the Kiambu Springs. We bring in water all the way from Nyandarua. And Ndakaini is our main source. So when the levels drop, we must look at how we can recharge in Ndakaini. And that's where the tunnel comes in. Okay. So it's a tunnel of life, not a tunnel of death. But
my concern, my question is, like I said, I don't want to be cynical. It's good that mitigation is happening, because we have found ourselves in the situation there is drought.
Yes.
But at what cost? Why wasn't there proper planning
before?
This is an amount of 21 billion. How much would have 21 billion done? How many more projects would have 21 billion done if such things were taken into consideration before?
Actually, what we're looking at is not a knee-jerk reaction. We're looking at plans that have been there. It's part of our Vision 2030. When you look at ending drought, it's part of our Vision 2030. Most of the projects I'm talking about, the Northern Collector, a project like Itare in Nakuru, a project like when you are talking about Mwache Dam at the coast, we have Sioi Dam in Pokot, we have Lowat Dam in Turkana. All these are part of the Vision 2030 projects that would want to make Kenya water secure by the time we get to 2030.
Okay.
So the issue is, how do we develop this infrastructure and ensure that as droughts keep recurring, we have enough storage capacity. You know, the dams we had, you are talking at five dams that were done by the former government. And out of those, only 2 have been completed.
We're talking about Uma Dam and Madasa. And what are they really doing?
They had legal challenges, which we have resolved, and we're in the process of relaunching them. But Chemususu was commissioned by the president last year. Kiserian Dam I commissioned, and the only one that had been commissioned was Maruba Dam in Machakos. But now we are talking of 40 new dams. Once we develop this infrastructure across the country, we will more than triple our storage capacity. This is where the future lies. Because climate change is real. I know there are people who still believe that it is a hoax. But the rain patterns are changing. The water levels are dropping. As the water decreases, our population is increasing. So we must come up with strategies to ensure that the scarce water resource that we have is properly stored. And we want to appeal to Kenyans tonight, especially tonight. There are Nairobians who are still watering their lawns when there are some in Eastlands who are going without water. There are Nairobians who are washing cars, splashing water around. Yet, this water is scarce. So we are appealing, and I'm very pleased that Governor Kidero and the Nairobi Water has teamed up with us to look at how we can conserve the little water that's available. Even as we develop the infrastructure, we must conserve the little that we have.
So you believe in climate change?
It is real.
It is real. And you know that these problems are bound to happen time and time again. You actually said it the other day. These things have been recurring in this country.
Now we're talking of this being the terrible new normal. Droughts are going to be here with us as we move forward. So we must look at ways of conserving the little water resource that we have.
Some questions were raised. The Parliamentary Budget Office, well, it was unpacking the 2017 budget policy statement. It noted the following. It says, for instance, in the policy statement of 2017, the budget policy statement. I mean, there is no, that even after the warnings, because it's not passed yet, it hasn't been passed yet. First, for example, there were concerns about there's no concrete measure or policy that will promote reforestation of the main water towers or increase the forest cover in the country. Yet you say you're aware of climate change.
Yes.
It also says there's no concrete policy proposal or intervention to enable transformation of agriculture from subsistence to commercial farming and agribusiness, or linking it to manufacturing that would ensure sustainable food security in the country. It also, Honorable Waziri, talks about the country still heavily reliant on rain-fed agriculture and no real policy to go beyond that. For example, there was no mention of the development of 6,000 acres and progressing the implementation of the 100,000 Galana Kulalu irrigation pilot program.
Yes.
Yet you say you are aware of climate change, yet you say you're looking into the future and changing these issues, and this is the budget policy statement of 2017.
Well, what is already ongoing is already we have developed the Irrigation Act, we have developed the irrigation policy that is before Cabinet, and what we have already is a Jubilee government manifesto of ensuring we increase our acreage under irrigation. As we speak, the Galana Kulalu irrigation project is on course, and I want to assure Kenyans that we are going to increase our acreage under irrigation, not just in Galana. We are looking at Turkana, we are looking at West Pokot, we are looking at Ukambani, the Kibwezi irrigation project that we want to revive. And recently I was in Malindi, and there's a huge potential for irrigation. So this is one area that we are focusing on. But on the issues of our water towers, just tomorrow we are visiting the Abadeas with my sister CS Wahungu to look at the ongoing programs to reforest our water towers. And with the European Union giving us 3.5 billion, we are not just looking at the Badeas, we are looking at Mount Elgon, we are looking at the Cherenganis, we are looking at Mau. So there are programs that are ongoing to protect our water towers in total recognition of the climate change threat. But what we want to appeal to leaders is that when it comes to mitigation measures, such as the Vision 2030 major infrastructure projects like Itara, as I've talked about, Northern Collector, we do not wish anyone to politicize this, because it doesn't matter who's in government now. Whoever is in government is expected to implement the Vision 2030 project for Kenya to realize this Vision 2030. Okay,
Ken in Nairobi asks you, question for Wamalwa, what happened to the huge water aquifer, I think, that was discovered up north in Turkana? He's not the only one asking this question.
There are two actually. It was the Napua aquifer and the Lotikipi. As we speak, the Napua one is operational. It's already serving the people of Lodwar. With the upscaling of our interventions now, we are going to Turkana to ensure we have more water tracking. Actually, we are taking the fresh water from Napu and we want to distribute it to areas that have no water. And we must thank the county government of Turkana. Governor Nanok has done his best. He's very strained. As of yesterday, we assured him we are coming in as national government. We are going to invest more in water tracking. We had 221 million. And you saw us in Kwale, you saw us in Kinango, you saw us in Jaribuni, you saw us in Tana River. We want to go to Kambani, we want to go to Northeastern and to Turkana to ensure we have more water tracking. We are also developing boreholes as quick fixes, so that we have more water from the ground now reaching people for domestic use as well as for their livestock. This is where we're going.
Yes. I have somebody here who's, you said in Lodwar Turkana, but somebody here is saying, fine, he understands that there is issue of water rationing, but why is it that they are not even having a drop of water in Turkana? And as you plan to answer that, this is something else I wanted to ask you, but we also have Kimanga in Mombasa who's put it very clearly, who says, kindly remind the Cabinet Secretary that there was El Nino money and now there's drought money. That is about 8 months apart, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
About 15 billion, was it 15 billion for El Nino money? For example, what happened to that? And yes, there was devastation, but do you know, for instance, how much water was collected, or was it harvested, or was any water harvested, and how much water was harvested? What I'm asking, and what Kimanga is also talking about, is just the contrast here. 8 months apart, we're talking about 15 billion to cater for floods. 8 months later, we're talking about almost 21 billion to cater for drought.
Yes. What we did say then, we had 5 billion as our emergency. But of course, we had donors coming in, and we built up everything to about 15 billion. But as you remember, the El Nino, in terms of severity, did not reach the levels anticipated. So not everything was deployed. But we are swinging, as I said, it's a terrible new normal.
Not the 15 billion was used.
No, because what we asked is that county governments have emergency funding. As national government, we had 5 billion. We said a first line of defense are the counties. And the counties, because the severity of El Nino was not to the levels expected, they took the most of it. And where we are today, when national government comes in, it means the counties are stretched. And that's why we had 10 governors here from ASAL areas. And that's why we're upscaling from 5 billion to 9 billion. And you're going to see us all over the country, because at the end of the day, the people in the counties are Kenyans. So we must all ensure we don't lose any life, we don't lose more livestock.
Right. Yes. There are a lot of questions we have to wind up. There are a lot of questions. People individually asking about their areas. I've seen questions about Karen, I've seen questions about Langata, I've seen questions about South Sea. You know, people saying, even without the drought, they didn't have water. And I think at the end of this interview, it's important you provide your email address so that they can write to you and raise all these issues, because there's so many from all over the country. We can't tackle all of them. Yes.
As bad as the situation looks tonight, help is on the way. We are developing infrastructure. As of next year, once the northern collector tunnel starts tunneling water and recharging Ndakaini, there will be no need to ration water in Nairobi as long as the Ndakaini levels are okay. And this is why we are talking about this. I will be visiting the tunnel tomorrow. Already we are 20% in terms of completion. We expect by end of the year to be over 50%. And once we cross some rivers like River Irati, River Gekie, River Maragua, this water will start recharging into Ndakaini immediately. So and once we are 60%, we don't need to ration.
Do you think then finally you would have done better in terms of planning? And can you really look at Kenyans today and tell them this is the last time we're going to be talking about such issues again?
We are at 60%.
Or when is the last time we'll be talking about such issues?
We are at 60% in terms of water coverage nationally. We are targeting we're doing about 40 dams across the country. By 2020, we should have completed most of the dams. You'll see us moving to 80%. Then the remaining 10 years, 2020 to 2030, we should be able to cover the balance, and we should be able to increase water to universal access for all, and to meet our vision 2030 and SDG goal number 6. This is where our focus is. As national government, we'll develop the infrastructure, but water services, water supply is a devolved function. And we expect the counties to also do their part. Thank you.
There's also this question I have to ask finally. You've said, I mean, there's a directive that all the car wash industry has been affected. That they should cease operations. All of them? Is that being practical? All of them?
If you don't wash your car today, you will not die, or the car would not be. You can wipe it. But splashing water, using 50 liters, washing your car, and there's a Kenyan who is not having a drop to drink, is really I would say it's a moral.
Some have said they've sunk their own boreholes and they're using water from their own boreholes.
It's a legitimate business, yes, but for now, even that borehole could help a neighbor. What we're saying the next few days, if you look at the priority, we're even saying in irrigation, where the upstream people are using water for irrigation, and downstream people cannot get water to drink. We're saying between our crops and the life upstream or downstream, we must give life priority. This is what we're talking about. And we're just asking Kenyans to be more compassionate, to be more sensitive. It's just for a few days.
It's a good thing if people can sacrifice. But again, this is a businesses. I don't know if there's any compensation for them, because they'll also be incurring losses if they don't do what they do.
The county government is engaging them, but as national government, we want to assure Kenyans we're doing everything to develop the infrastructure, to bring in more water in Nairobi from Murang'a. We want to bring in more water from Sasimua in Nyandarua. We want to bring in more water from Mwache in Kwale to Mombasa. And through the Mzima Spring, we want to bring in water from Taita Taveta.
There's a lot more, of course, to talk about, and we'll be.
But we're doing our best as much as the situation is severe. We want Kenyans to be sensitive to that. and to know that we are facing a real grave situation.
Right, of course, we hope this ends as soon as possible. We get a relief from this. We'll be talking to the Cabinet Secretary, of course, in future. But again, I hope we won't bring him again to talk about drought, hoping the situation will get better. But thank you so much for making time for us on The Big Question. Keep talking to us. The hashtag on Twitter is The Big Question. You can text us on 22422.